Hello and welcome to All the Way Down, a YouTube channel all about the Scottish rock band Biffy Clyro.
All the way down, all the way down.
So this week marks 15 years of Biffy Clyro's fourth album, Puzzle. So Puzzle was released on the 4th of June 2007. It was recorded mostly in Vancouver, Canada, with legendary producer Garth Richardson. He would produce Puzzle, Only Revolutions and Opposites. Also along for the ride for those three albums was Storm Thorgerson, who I've talked about in a previous video. He did the album cover art for those three albums and its singles. Puzzle, of course, was the first album to be released from the Warner Brothers / 14th Floor record label. They moved from Beggar's Banquet after the first three albums, and we had a couple of years wait because the last album from that label was Infinity Land in 2004, and a couple of years later we got Puzzle in 2007. So the move from labels obviously caused a bit of a delay. The band obviously did Marmaduke Duke, the side project, and in 2007 Puzzle was released into the world. And thanks to the big record label change, obviously Warner's is a big label. 14th Floor is called a subsidiary to that, so it's kind of an offshoot of it. So you're still getting the same kind of money, we think, to give the band more exposure, and it shows with the singles and sort of the push they were given around this time. Just to give you an idea of the singles from this album, Sentimental was a download only song which was released in December 2006. Saturday Superhouse in March 2007. Living is a Problem in May 2007. Then we had Puzzle, the album, released in June 2007. A month later, Folding Stars was released, the single, and Machines in October 2007. And then next year, in February 2008, Who's Got a Match. So that's kind of a 2-year span of release just from one album cycle. So we have essentially 6 songs, 5 singles, and the album within a 2-year span. Now that's worth noting because the first 3 albums, Black and Sky, Vertigo of Bliss, Infinity Land, were all released within 3 years. So they had an album a year. So if you're a fan around this time, which I was towards the tail end of it, we were pretty much spoiled for material because they had 3 albums worth in as many years. Now, thanks to the big label change, we've got one album and kind of a big spread of singles, more singles. And if we were to look at the charts, Puzzle got to number 2 in the album charts in the UK, which is absolutely fantastic. And it went platinum in the UK as well, selling over 300,000 copies. In terms of singles and their single chart positioning, Saturday Superhouse got to number 13, Living is a Problem got to 19, Folding Stars 18, Machines 29, Who's Got a Match 27. And I know you're asking, what is the chart position average of those singles? It's 21.2. Now, I had a look at the singles from the last album, Infinity Land. There's only 3 singles from that album, and they all got around the 20, 25 to 30 mark, around the 20s. So with Saturday Superhouse and Living is a Problem, we're cracking into the top 20. So a bit of a more of a mainstream push, more radio play, and of course a bit of a wider fan base as well. The album for me and for a lot of fans is noted for its dramatic change of lyrical content. In the first 3 albums, not so much Black and Sky because there are a few songs on that which are quite obviously about relationships breaking up and kind of issues are surrounding that. But definitely with Vertigo of Bliss and Infinity Land, lyrics almost seemed quite cryptic. Unintelligible, sort of sentences sort of mixed together and not really meaning anything, or meaning things that we don't understand because they sort of have hidden meanings. With Puzzle, the lyrical style and the lyrical change is quite dramatic, and there's a big reason for this. Simon's mother obviously passed away, and there are 3 songs on this album which are kind of staples from this album to kind of give that kind of message. Living is a Problem, Folding Stars and Machines. So sadly, the death of Simon's mother had a huge impact and a huge influence in how he was writing. Lyrics became more raw, more honest, and basically a lot sort of darker and a lot sadder. Puzzle seems to be a very important album in Biffy's timeline because for some reason, for a few reasons I think, is that there seems to be a divide from this album onwards. There are fans, quite loyal fans, who love the first three albums, myself included, and there seems to be a divide between those albums and the rest of the band's output. I personally love Puzzle, I love Only Revolutions, I love the new stuff, and I really love the first three albums. But it really is important to know the changes between the first three and Puzzle onwards. They've been given a massive push on the different record label change, and their music is becoming a bit more relatable. The music, in terms of instrumentation, still a bit odd, still very angular, different time signatures and things like that. But in terms of lyrics, Simon is becoming a lot more relatable, and he's singing about grief, which is obviously the main through line of this album. I do remember the album track A Whole Child Ago being on the In-Betweeners soundtrack when it came on. I was a huge fan of the TV show. I was the perfect age for it when it came out, and it came on halfway through an episode, and I thought, oh, brilliant. And I do remember Machines being on a TV show, and I can't remember which one, and I can't even find it. Something like Grey's Anatomy, some kind of American drama. I'm sure it was on a TV show. So Machines, A Whole Child Ago, we're seeing Biffy songs in not in mainstream radio play, but on TV shows as well. What's so genius, I think, about this album is that it does have songs in here which are very quite mainstream. We're hearing them a lot more on the radio. Folding Stars, Machines, these kind of songs which you'd hear quite easily on Radio 1, daytime kind of stuff. But the kind of three movements that sort of punctuate this album, that make up 15 15ths, give the album real character, and give it quite a haunting feeling, even though we're becoming a bit more approachable, a bit more mainstream as far as this album as a whole goes. Couple of facts about this album and the songs in it. The song "The Conversation Is ... was an idea developed by James. Usually it's Simon who comes in with all the ideas and they develop it from there in the rehearsal space, but it's actually said by Simon that James came up with this idea, and the guitar tuning is quite odd in that it is F, C, G, D, F, C. Now, if you know Biffy Clyro and their tunings, they're a big fan of Dadgad, the drop D tuning. Every so often they will do standard tuning, but this is a very irregular tuning, and you can kind of hear that in the song. Fact number 2, Machines almost didn't make the album. It was recorded on the last day of recording in the studio, and Simon said that he wanted to give pretty much an uplifting, yet solemn, but uplifting sort of vibe to the end of the album. Imagine Puzzle without Machines on it. I can't. And the last fact is that the extra track on the UK limited edition of this album, Puzzle, is a song called Drop It. It was originally called Drop It Dickhead, and I think it's the only Biffy song which features a harmonica. You can tell it's quite a well-loved song by the band because it came up again when they did the MTV Unplugged tour, and obviously the album that came with it that was recorded at the Roundhouse. Great song, probably could have been added to the proper full album, but every so often they do like to put in a limited edition extra track, and Drop It is a perfect one for that. You may be shocked to find out that my favourite songs from this album aren't singles. Essentially 6 singles from this album, very good ones at that. I love Living Is a Problem, I love Who's Got a Match, and of course Who Doesn't Love Machines, especially when it's played live. But Get Fucked Stood, A Whole Child Ago, Love Has a Diameter are my favourite songs from these. But I like to think Biffy's album, and any album, is a complete piece of work. And in terms of Puzzle, it's a really, really important point in the band's timeline. The move to a bigger record label, growing a bigger fan base, and of course they choose to do it in talking about such a big and quite a solemn idea of grief. It's something that Simon was going through at the time. You know, let's not be fake and sort of talk about other things. Let's deal with the issue directly. And my goodness, do they deal with this in the songs. Machines, Folding Stars, Living is a Problem. Such great songs in here, songs that remain on the set list 15 years later. And I urge anyone to pick up a copy of this album and give it a listen, because it's so important in the world of Biffy Clyro. Thank you very much for watching. Happy 15th birthday to Puzzle. I'm going to give it another listen today just to give it a big happy birthday, and hope you do too. I'll see you on the next video.
All the way.